Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hey everybody!
Hello!
My name is David Bell.
I'm Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Suspiria.
Suspiria!
The remake.
The remake.
Not the original.
The remake.
The remake.
Three mothers, pre-God, pre-devil. Mother Tenebrarum, Mother Lacrimarum, and Mother Suspiriorum. Darkness, tears, and sighs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could sum this up in one word, this movie.
It's very boring.
Okay. I was gonna only give you one word, but yes, boring was the word I was thinking of.
It's not even just, it's dull.
Yes. I don't. There are parts that I liked.
Yeah.
But
basically what this movie is you have to sit through 2 hours and 20 minutes of dull crap for an awesome ending.
Yes. Someone watched Suspiria, the 90-minute long movie from the 70s, and they thought, okay, what if I take away all the color, change the plot entirely, and add an hour? That's got to work out, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a great film.
It is an hour longer.
Yeah, this movie is 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
It has a storyline about a doctor who lost his wife during World War II that does not matter.
Right. That
character does not impact the plot at all.
In the original, that character just gets murdered halfway through, right?
No. He's in like it's Udo Kier in the original. He's in like
Isn't
two
it
scenes.
The guy gets like murdered by dogs? Who gets killed by? I haven't seen Suspiria in a second.
Neither have I. I thought there were only 2 murders in it, but
I feel like I'm gonna watch it like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I remember really liking it, and I know I know at least the broad strokes. That's not the same plot as
no. One of the
this.
things, this movie isn't scary and it's not really suspenseful,
right?
Because they explain everything.
Yes,
like the dance studio is a coven of witches from Jump Street.
This movie, I would say the main story, if I had to sum it up, was it's about a coven. Bureaucracy. The bureaucracy of a coven leadership. There's votes being taken, which maybe I don't remember that being in the original.
No,
but like they spend a lot of time on just like the internal workings of the coven.
Yeah, and it's not like
at one point they're bickering and they're having dinner and talking about whatever, and one of the characters just stabs herself in the neck.
Yeah, that was me watching this movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, when that moment happened, I was like, oh, how come she gets to leave?
And that's never explained.
No. What the okay, why does this movie exist? Because if you're going to make a movie this different than the original, just make a new movie.
It also, it's bizarrely concerned with the anti-communist growing rebellion in West Germany, and the Entebbe, I think, when the Palestinian terrorists captured a German airplane. I think they just made a movie about it.
Right. What was the point of all that?
I don't know, but it's like they make you see it seem like it's vitally important to the movie because we spend a lot of time listening to news broadcasts and watching TV broadcasts about this hostage situation throughout the entire film, and it doesn't fucking matter. It has nothing to do with anything.
Right. This feels very. It felt very pretentious.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by this. I just went on Rotten Tomatoes. Only a 60% from critics. I thought the critics were going to pretend this was really good.
No, I remember a couple of months ago, the early reviews were coming out and they weren't great.
Right. 70% from audiences. That surprises me because I feel like most people who want to go see a horror film is going to sit down for all 2.5 hours of this and be like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. I would have walked out.
Yes, but I just had a boredom. I almost fell asleep.
Yeah.
I don't.
It wasn't because it was such an atrocious movie. It was just so fucking boring.
And here's the thing, and this is the thing. There was a guy. Well, I'll use myself as an example. There was a guy who came into the audience before you got in.
Yeah.
He was in front of us, and he was just like real pretentious when I heard him talk. And then when we left, I heard him even being like, "What the fuck was that? That was so long and boring."
Yeah.
So, and my point is, I like slow movies. I even like the horror films that aren't horror films. I liked A Ghost Story. I liked Personal Shopper. Both are films that are like classified technically as horror, but it's more about characters and emotion and crap. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't mind that stuff. This was just, it didn't have a point. Mm-mm. And so like, it wasn't saying anything. It was very dull.
Yeah, it was just dull. It's not. It doesn't engage you at any point.
No, it really doesn't.
It over-explains everything to you, so there's no suspense really.
Right. And like, it's just very long and fucking stretched out.
Yeah.
I'm so curious as to why this movie got made.
I don't know.
It's very like the thing that summed it up was what's her name? Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton plays an old man in this.
Yeah, she plays two roles.
She plays two roles. The main like witch,
sort of the main witch. Yeah. She's a pretty big wheel.
Yeah.
In the coven.
Yeah.
And then she's also this old man.
And she's this old man. And when we found out that was happening, it was like, oh, there must be some reason. She doesn't do bad as the old man, and I forgot it was her a few of the times.
A couple
the makeup
of scenes,
is pretty good.
Yeah.
But there was no point.
I feel like they had Tilda Swinton, and they were like, "You want to do this?"
Yeah.
And she was.
But that kind of felt like the whole film to me, is that it felt like, let's do this stuff, not for any particular reason. Let's just try it. Let's just do these sequences, or like, it just felt like it was for the people making it and not the audience.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, the old man, his character is pointless.
Yes.
Because it's like in a normal suspense movie, he would be the audience's in, or
right.
Dakota Johnson, who's the student who's just now getting to the dance studio, would be the audience's proxy.
Right.
But they explain everything, so there's no need for a proxy.
That's the thing. There's no like main character.
No, it's told from everyone's point of view.
Yeah, and that was weird. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a bad thing for a horror movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for a horror movie, it's just we're just wandering around, these characters seeing everything that's happening.
Yeah, you need some. If you want to have suspense, you can't have an omniscient viewpoint.
I don't think this person meant to make a horror movie. I think whoever this filmmaker is, I looked up his name briefly. He hadn't really.
Well, he did. What did he do? Call Me by Your Name?
Oh, right, he did. That explains a little bit, because he doesn't make horror.
No, but this movie,
and this felt like someone who wasn't out to make a horror movie.
He could, though, because I thought there's a couple of good parts in this movie that I liked. The dream sequences are very effective.
The dream sequences are good. The part where the lady breaks all her bones, very good. That was the scene that, like, I think during some
con or
some
festival.
Some convention, people were like walking out
getting
of
physically ill.
I mean, I can see why.
It's I mean, this movie, it's not scary. It's brutal grotesque. When it decides to be. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and we will discuss that scene. But that was the thing, is it definitely had those moments, but there were so few. Mm-hmm. This is a movie that I would recommend for two reasons. One, if you just need to go to sleep. Movies don't put me to bed that often. This one, I was nodding out.
Yeah.
Like, just have on in bed. It would give you some weird dreams.
Yeah, you would. Maybe not this one, but
I guess it depends on the kind of person you are.
Yeah.
The other way to watch this movie is to look up the times where the cool stuff happens and just skip to those times.
I have not checked the time on my phone so many times.
It was very as
I did during this film.
I knew going in, because you went in. You came in right as the movie was starting, but I got to hear at the ArcLight they have a usher come out and tell you about the movie, for people listening, and they said, "Welcome to Suspiria. It's going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes." I was just like, "Oh my fucking god." And when I hear that, like, in my head, I always think, because that's not always a bad thing.
No.
But whenever a movie is like over 2 hours, I think, you better be worth it.
This better be delivering.
Yeah, you better keep my fucking interest. And you felt every minute of this
like,
2.5 hours.
This is a weird comparison, but like Infinity War, that's 2.5 hours.
Right.
Didn't check my time during it.
Right. I think Bad Times at the El Royale was like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, yeah.
Didn't
Never
feel it.
once looked at my phone during that movie.
This is why I'm really surprised right now. I wonder if audience... I get obsessed with Rotten Tomatoes just because... I don't know why. I just like looking at it, and it's making me very... I'm very curious why this has such a high... Cause
I'm surprised it has a high audience score.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it has a high audience score, higher than critics. That's
the only. I mean, the best way to describe this movie is the soundtrack is done by Tom York.
Yeah,
like you kind of have to be a douchebag to like this movie.
It's fucking pretentious.
Yeah,
and it's pretentious in the way that it doesn't mean anything when it ends, or if it does mean anything, I didn't care enough to figure it out.
I think it was about. I think it might have been about. Because they talk a lot about just how women were stronger in Germany before the war,
right? And
they were strong, so this coven was strong, so they survived. And it's like a lot of the terrorists that the Palestinian terrorists want to be freed were women,
right?
Women members of the RAF. And then at the end, when Dakota Johnson becomes Suspiria, which is apparently a character now.
She tells them the story of his wife being strong and being with other women.
Yeah, and they bring the old man to witness the ritual at the end to punish him for not saving his wife when the Nazis came.
Right.
Like he didn't get her out in time and she had to flee on her own, and then we find out she was apprehended and died in a camp. So they're like punishing him for that. So I guess it's supposed to be about like female empowerment. I don't know.
Right.
It's like
it'd be like the female version of toxic masculinity or something.
I guess
because it's not like good empowerment.
No, it's not.
They murder a lot of people and they do some bad shit.
Just casually murdering so many girls.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I don't know if we should talk about that scene yet, or if we should even go through the plot. Because the plot is basically Suspiria. Imagine Suspiria.
Twice as long.
Twice as long. So, like, yes, it does have that, like, girl comes to this dance studio. The names are the same, the character names.
Yeah.
And then they turn out to be witches, which was something that could have easily been done in 90 minutes in a much prettier film. This film, the cinematography reminded me of, you know, when you're, like, playing video games during the day and the sun sets and you don't realize that, and it's like dusk and you haven't turned on the lights and it just everything looks dark and like gross and you're like, oh, I gotta turn on some lights. That was this movie.
In the first scene, I almost asked you if it was out of focus.
Yeah, the whole movie looks like someone needs to turn on some lights. It's just dark and colorless.
I mean,
which is the opposite of Suspiria.
In fairness, I lived in Germany for several years. That's what Germany looks like.
Sure.
It's gray.
Sure.
It's gray and raining all the time.
I don't need it to be that. I didn't mind the rain, but the rain, they didn't even make the rain look cozy.
No, it's just... It was also, and I understand why they did it, for claustrophobia.
Yeah.
But every angle is so close in. Like, you never get... You feel trapped, and that's very intentional, I'm sure.
I'm sure, but it didn't...
but it's...
Since it was such a bummer, I felt trapped in a boring movie.
Right, yeah. I was excited about that at first.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is interesting. He's got the camera in so close that you never really get a sense of the room being much bigger than just your immediate space.
And I get...
But then I just forgot about all that because fucking nothing happens in
I
this
get
movie.
the Suspiria is like it was the original is very visually unique, so you got to do something different.
And the first Suspiria is kind of slow.
It is, but it's still only 90 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Like it
is under 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm fine with slow if you're going somewhere with it.
It's also
and
really
it's
pretty.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, if you've seen any Dario Argento movie, there's like so much. This one in particular, so much color in it.
That's what I mean. It's atmospheric and it's slow, but it's very pretty to look at. This movie didn't look pretty. I know that, again, they weren't going to copy the look of the original, but like they didn't do anything that interesting. And yeah, there was... I know what you're saying, where when it first started, I was like a little interested. I was like, oh, this is artsy. That first part where the girl comes in and talks to the...
It's Chloe Grace Moretz.
Right. Would they advertise she was in this, which was sort of not true. She's in a scene.
She's in 2 scenes, but in that very first scene when she comes to talk to the old man who's a psychologist, they really don't show her face.
No, they don't.
I think it's intentional, but
Yeah, and that scene, it was very slow, and I was like, okay, that's fine. This is Suspiria. And then it started to lose me, and then they did the breaking bones scene, and I was like, okay, here we go. Like they've earned this, they were getting me real bored, and then this happened, and it's like, okay, here we go. The movie's going. Here we go. And then nothing happens for another hour.
Nothing happens for another hour.
And it was like, oh my fucking God, movie.
Like, the movie begins, it doesn't have titles. It has a single title card. That says...
it's like chapters or parts.
Right, it has one title card that says a
real Wes
drama in 6 acts and an epilogue.
Yeah. They never say, the title Suspiria never comes up.
Not until the end.
Does it come up at the end?
Yeah, they showed it at the end.
Oh, okay.
But like toward the end of every, like, I was okay up until like we got to Act 4, and I'm like, Jesus, this is still going.
Right.
So like when Act 6 popped up, I was like, ugh.
Thank you. And then they're like, epilogue, and it was like,
fuck you. Like, come on.
Oh my God.
It's a shame. Because there's some good stuff in it.
It's all right. It's sort of a shame. It's also like we have a good version of this movie already, and it's shorter and it's prettier and it's a better film. So, like, it's more like, shucks, you fucked up. But, and I mean, as I left the theater, I quickly like Googled this movie, and the director's already talking about he wants to make a prequel, and it's just like,
go fuck yourself.
But it's so weird because. Why is he even talking about that? Because this is such an artsy film. Like, who thinks about making a prequel to their, like, drawn-out Suspiria remake? Like, what is the point of all this?
I don't know.
What was the point of this movie?
For a movie that takes so goddamn long to have anything happen, there are, like, a couple of things, like, a couple of major things that happen off-screen.
Yeah.
Like... The Sarah character, we just cut to her having discovered the witch's spider house.
Yeah, she's just in there. In there, huh?
I'm like, this movie is 2.5 hours long.
Mirror open, right?
Well, they show her find the secret room into like the cabinet of curiosities, but then they just smash cut to her walking into the giant loom chamber.
Right, and that mirror scene, it shows she goes into the other thing. Mm-hmm. She watches them.
She peeks in and then slams the door, and we don't see what was happening.
Right,
which is a effective horror thing because you can hear them like screaming horribly, but like we never understand why the one matron stabbed herself in the neck. Like, it's a character that we see in the background. She looks like another actor in disguise because she's just so odd looking. She looks like Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
Yes, I feel like there's probably some really subtle shit in there that
because like they make a point of showing her like watching from the eaves a bunch of times, and then she just stabs herself in the neck in the middle of a dinner, and it's just never explained.
The way like this film, it felt like the kind of film that I bet they explained it, but it was like on a piece of paper in one shot, or you know what I mean, where like it was this weird combination of what you're saying, where they show us everything in advance. But they also, like, again, like, almost go out of their way to make the plot as kind of confusing, or where that first scene where she walks in and she's talking to the guy, and then, like, it cuts to, like, that farm, the Amish farm, and then it jumps around a bunch, and it's not... And so, you have to, like, sort of figure out what the fuck's going on at first.
And then it tells you.
Everything.
So it's like, why the hell did you show me this in the beginning?
Right.
Yeah, the stuff with... Because Dakota Johnson escapes from her Mennonite family. She hated her mother. Her mother dies in bed. But we're shown her mother sick in bed and being sort of read her last rites, without any understanding of who this is or why it's important.
Right.
And then we cut to the dance studio in Berlin, and it doesn't click that was her mother in her home for like another 30 minutes.
Right.
So it's like, why even show us that scene?
It's in a very fucking pretentious artsy way but it doesn't serve any purpose. Like, again, there's nothing wrong with making some fucking artsy ass movie. I don't know why you took another movie, a horror movie, and turned it into that. Why this person did that.
Yeah, it's odd.
Why not just, like, if you're going to remake Suspiria, just make a fucking fun horror movie that's atmospheric and cool and is short.
I think they took the idea of let's do we want a horror movie that's slow, that
Right.
has sudden explosions of violence,
Yeah.
and has an atmospheric soundtrack. And
Yeah.
they're like, okay, let's make a 2.5-hour Suspiria remake with Tom York doing the music.
It's just the fucking ego on someone who looks at Suspiria and is just like, I'm going to make my version of it. It's going to be an hour longer and it's going to be like real slow. Like that, and I'm going to like just make it real, like, again, it's like they explain everything, but it's also confusing to watch at times.
Yeah. Boy, nothing is more jarring than, speaking of the Tom York soundtrack, which isn't bad.
No, it's not bad.
Until he sings.
Right. And again, that feels...
You can't get Radiohead in the
Yeah.
middle of this, like, it's so
Oh, yeah,
jarring
it's
to hear
in a
him
weird
start singing a
sequence, too.
Radiohead song.
Oh, yeah, it's in that ending sequence.
It's in the ritual sequence. And it's in the very beginning, which
Yeah.
it kind of felt appropriate in the beginning.
Right.
When we're on the Mennonite farm. And then it's in the very end during the ritual.
Right.
Which is jarring when that happens.
It's very... The whole thing's very masturbatory. Like, it's very, like, these artists being just not at all having any consideration for the audience. There's some good stuff.
There's some good stuff. Like we said, there's a couple of dream sequences where we're learning that they're basically getting Dakota Johnson ready to be a vessel for who they've elected to be the head of their coven,
Right.
Mother Marcos, who they believe is the one of the actual three mothers who started their coven or whatever.
Right.
One of whom being Mother Suspirium.
Yeah. That was weird. Markham is in the original, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
She looks like that.
Okay, yeah.
But so Tilda Swinton, they're getting Dakota ready, who's Susie. They're getting Susie ready by beaming her dreams, and the dreams are good. Like the dream
Right.
sequences are pretty effective.
Yeah, they're well done.
And well done. And as we learned, some of them are images from the future.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, particularly Sarah holding her intestines. is
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
Dreams.
And then they're also giving her, like, dance powers
Yeah, they're taking powers from other dancers and imbuing them in her.
to make a dance that really reminded me of that race of aliens in the movie Space Mutiny with the the weird, like, they have a Spencer's gift ball. I think they're called, like, the Valerians,
something
or something like that.
Something.
I didn't mind the dancing.
No, the dancing is good, and I'll say that it does a good job of making you nervous about dancing.
Yeah, well,
because it's like, so they really make the dances seem violent, and the
Right.
idea is that the dances are actually spells.
yeah.
So like in the scene where they're trying to get her to jump higher, I was like nervous. Like I was like,
Right.
somebody's gonna break a fucking bone.
Yeah, the dance scenes were good. Mm-hmm. They were entertaining to watch.
Yeah, no, it's well choreographed.
Yeah.
All the dancing is excellent.
I wish there was more dancing or more something.
I wish there was more something fun to watch.
Yeah.
Or entertaining or engaging. Like this movie is...
The characters are boring.
They're so boring.
Yeah.
Everyone is so boring.
Everybody is just... And again, it's colorless and it's slow and the characters just sort of talk to each other about stuff. And
then like
really...
there's a couple of sequences where the witches have these droning telepathic conversations with each other.
Which is like the fucking Mr. Science Theater... Or, the Space Mutiny.
It's like Dune.
They do that in Space Mutiny. They communicate... Yeah, it is like Dune.
We just have a lot of internal monologuing.
Yeah.
And at some point, Susie becomes completely on board with being the vessel for the switch. We don't know when that happens. It just sort of happens all of a sudden.
She seems to imply that she always was on board.
At the end,
she says something like, I wanted this before I got here.
At the very end, she's like,
yeah.
The ending...
I don't understand.
The ending... The ending ritual is great, but like the ending itself is baffling and stupid.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
They bring her down for the ritual, like she's ready, and they bring her down the ritual, and Tilda Swinton's like, the ritual's fucked up.
I like
they
it
have all these dancers, ladies dancing naked.
And they got the old man out, and he's naked, and he's just crying. They lead the old man there by giving him a hallucination of his dead wife.
Yeah, she came back.
And then one of the witches runs out just like, ah! Yeah, and like
that was hilarious.
yeah, and just grabs his ass and drags him inside.
It was like a spoof of a jump scare.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-second shot of this lady screaming at the top of her lungs like a witch and running out the building towards the camera. It was fucking funny.
It's funny because jump scares, it's usually like the killer's just suddenly there.
Yeah.
But she has to get out there.
Yeah, she's got to make
it. And they show her just running out of the building.
I mean, it's jarring.
I don't know why they targeted him.
They said they needed a witness. It's not clear. They said they needed somebody to witness the ritual.
Right.
And it could be one of the girls because it would drive them insane, even though several of the girls are there.
Right. And so,
Unclear.
yeah, they got him laid out naked.
Mm-hmm. They got old Chloe Grace Moretz, who looks like a zombie. She's all like rotten.
Oh, yeah, that was her.
And I think the lady who broke all her bones as well.
Oh, okay.
Because there's 3 of them there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It would be her, yeah.
And then they have Sarah, who they just cut open and start sharing her guts around.
But she's cool with it. She stays...
Yeah, she's like in a trance.
Yeah.
And they lead Susie in there, and she's just like DTF.
Yeah.
Like she's like, yeah, no, I've been ready for this my whole life. Yeah, no, this is what I always wanted. So
And
like,
this is-
okay, I
this
thought
is-
you came from like a Mennonite family with an
Right.
overbearing mother, and you just wanted to dance. Like, when did you become imbued with
And
the spirit of a witch?
This is that point where it's like, boy, it would be great to have a main character right about now.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly Tilda Swinton is like, oh, we should stop this. And I'm like, why the fuck do you care?
Right.
Were you supposed to be the main character? Like, in the original, which, again, I only remember the broad strokes, but it's a girl who doesn't want to be there is getting attacked by these witches and eventually gets the fuck out of there. And it's like, yeah, that's a horror movie. Someone who's like, this is fucked up. There's the old man who's technically didn't want to be there, but he's not doing anything about it.
No, he's just laying there.
And until this moment, he wasn't a main character. He's like a side character. I kept waiting for him to die up until this moment.
Right. He's like a side character that we spend like an hour and 20 minutes on.
Yes.
And his plot doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He
And
doesn't
then-
affect any of the characters in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so it's Dakota Fox. She's like the closest to him. Johnson. Jesus Christ.
We're jumping all over
Which
the place.
one's Dakota Fox?
I don't know. I called her Fanning earlier.
Maybe I was thinking Fanning. Dakota Fox. I don't know.
Anyway.
I think it's one of our Patreons.
Oh, it might be.
It might be. Anyway, she's like the closest to a protagonist,
but then suddenly
isn't into it. So it's like if Ash from Evil Dead was just like, you know what, I will be possessed at the third act, and then we just watch that happen. Like,
you mean
it's
at
that
the fourth act,
because
this is a drama in 6 acts and an epilogue.
Right. Jesus fucking Christ.
Fucking asshole tells you that up front.
So yeah.
No, it's a movie, shithead.
Yeah. Tilda
Swinton suddenly becomes the hero.
Yeah, well, for a second, and then
they chop her head most of the way off, which is excellent.
Yeah, this was excellent, but it wasn't enough. And it's the sequence of it's just a bunch of naked witches running around and just having a witch fight, and blood is everywhere.
Well, Tilda Swinton's head gets cut mostly off because she's like,
Right.
wait, something's wrong. And they're like, shut up. She's going to, or like Mother Marcos cuts her head off with witch magic.
Right.
She's like, I'm going to have my new vessel. And then there's a huge plot twist where it's like, oh no, I'm not your vessel. I'm Mother Suspirium all along.
Yeah,
I was
Suspirium shows up.
And that, I mean, how?
I think there's the part early where she's dancing and Mother Suspirium is under the floor. We don't know it's her yet. And they're like making some sort of bond.
Well, no, they say it's Mother Marcos in the very next scene.
They do. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but that's what they tell us it is.
Yeah, I would just assumed they were wrong or something. I guess I was doing the movie's work for it, but
yeah,
and she shows up and she's looking real gnarly.
Yeah, there's because she's Susie's supposed to be Suspirium, but then also there's this ring Blair Witch creature that shows up, who I guess is also Suspirium.
I thought when she rips over to her chest, she's like giving herself to.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I thought it was like she's ready, but she's not actually her.
Oh
yet.
yeah, that checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Suspirium shows up and starts murdering everybody.
Blowing up people's heads.
Yeah,
and it is excellent.
It's great.
It's the best head detonation I've seen since Scanners.
Yeah, it's about what 5-10 minutes of the movie.
Well, just walking around through this this
Well, it's
blood
all the
orgy.
people who voted against her.
All the people who voted against Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, like, oh, this is all the bureaucracy of this coven. That's all we've been watching.
Right.
Is this inner fucking fight of this coven.
Yeah, it's Tom Clancy's Politica.
Right.
Only with witches.
And this is a weird... I've seen this in other horror movies and stuff. It's a weird instinct when your monsters are just bickering amongst each other, like your villains, and then
it's
they
like internal
ultimately...
politics.
Yeah, like it. Another movie we talked about, Apostle, has a version of that works.
Right.
This doesn't.
No.
It didn't for me. It felt... It really felt like they just didn't know what to do, or like... They thought what they had was really cool, but it really... Like, again, that was a cool sequence,
Yeah,
but
it's a
like
cool
you
sequence.
said, plot-wise, it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, how the hell is she the reincarnation of one of the
Right.
the three prime witches, the elder witches?
Right.
That just never explained.
No, because she's from, like,
Ohio.
Ohio, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then, and then my favorite part of the whole movie happens. So all the witches get their heads exploded. She tears open her chest, and then it's like gets really intense, and then it just like smash cuts to the old man getting let out in like his clothes again, but it's all loose by another witch. And me and you in the theater both started laughing because it's like this quiet scene of the old man who witnessed all this, and they're just like, "Well, thanks for coming."
Yeah,
Like,
thanks. We're gonna call you a cab.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Like,
such a ridiculous. Like, what?
so fucking weird.
Yeah.
And this old man just shambles home like, well, that was a night. What was the point of that?
What's the point of that character?
Yeah. To witness it? Like, I thought, okay, like, as boring as the movie was when I was, before that scene, I was like, okay, this is all going to connect somehow. And it didn't.
Doesn't. His whole history with his missing wife, the stuff about the hostages.
Yeah, it doesn't really add
Doesn't
up to
matter.
anything. And at the end, they just like erase. Do they erase his memory? Does she pull a Hermione?
Yeah,
on him?
she shows up. Susie shows up as Suspirium.
Yeah,
And sits down on the old man's bed and tells him what actually happened to his wife.
right.
But that she died thinking of him. And that she wasn't scared, and then
Right.
she erases not only everything he saw of the coven, but she erases the memory of his wife
Right, which
from
is
his head.
so strange. I don't know why. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. And they keep showing us these protracted scenes of him doddering down to the village where he and his wife used to live and cleaning up his
Yeah.
old house. And then the epilogue we see is just like, I guess the house in modern times or
Yeah.
something, because it's like overgrown and there's a family living there. And we're looking at like newish power lines. And it
Right.
just like zooms in on they put their initials on
Their
the side
heart,
of the
and
house.
it was like, wait, and then it ends, and I was like, wait, was this a romance?
Was this a story about this old
Yeah.
guy being sad about his wife?
Because they didn't tell us that. Like, I guess he's technically the main character because we start with him,
Yeah.
and we end with him. But at no point does the story frame him as if he's the main. The things aren't happening to him. And again, having known Suspiria, I was like sitting there like, okay, when are we going to get the main character? And then they show her coming in the subway, and I was like, oh, here it is. Here's the scene where she shows up and she gets accepted, and it's like that's what the story of Suspiria is. It's the story of this girl who goes to this dance studio and is like, I want to be here and dance, and then they accept her and she lives there.
Surprise, it's
And then they're
witches.
witches, and she gets away. Like that's the story.
Well, I wasn't
and there's
surprised-
just this fucking old man in the way the whole time.
I don't know why they wrote that old man in there.
It's so weird.
It's like, what if we took Suspiria and made it about this old guy?
Yeah, made it about this
Made it
dude.
about this old guy's guilt
Yeah,
over not getting his wife out of wherever they were
right.
at the time.
And that would be smart if it had something to do, like if like
It has nothing
It has
to do
nothing
with the
to do with
coven or
it.
anything.
it doesn't add anything to the plot. Like I get the idea of doing a remake where you're like, but what if there was this character
Mm-hmm.
and it all clicks together in this really cool way? This just felt forced. This felt like Tilda Swinton, like just being like, I want to play an old man, and they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess we can write one in.
Like, I can't stress enough how much they focus on the hostages in Entebbe, or I think it's Entebbe, but the airline hostages, the World War II stuff, like the political unrest in West Germany, like the anti-communism stuff. They really focus on it, and it has nothing to do with anything.
I think the director just wanted to comment on it or something.
But
like,
he doesn't.
He doesn't, but it's that...
There's no comment. It's just there.
It's Tom York singing.
Yeah.
It's that. It's I'm gonna fucking
While witches are dancing in blood.
It's
that.
just like this
Picture
isn't
him
about,
radio-heading it up.
Yeah, it was just like this isn't about you, Tom York. Like, why are you singing right now? Get out of this movie.
Knock it off, Thom.
Yeah,
you jerk.
Thom. And that
I'm my name's Tom. That's not how you spell it.
No, it's wrong. That is
You're
a
doing
wrong
it wrong,
name.
Tom York. You're doing it like a jerk.
What the fuck?
I actually really like a lot of Radiohead stuff, but
sure, that's
it was just
fine,
way
but,
out
like,
of place in this movie.
Like
the original movie scored by Goblin. That makes sense.
it was so good.
It's like doing a horror movie scored by Phil Collins.
Yeah, it really is.
Why?
They couldn't get anything. Fuck. What was the fucking point of this? It drained everything that was interesting about removed everything interesting visually and musically about the original. It just added an hour-long subplot that was apparently the main story.
Yeah.
That's like the twist. The twist is this character you didn't give a shit about is the main character.
Right. The twist is that the coven was incidental.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it really didn't feel like it. The way it ends, it just doesn't feel like it has anything to do with
there's
the
no
coven.
there's no wrap up at the studio. We just see them piling stacks of bodies in the corner, and they're like, "Oh, Tilda Swinton,
oh my God, you're right. It is
Mother Blank has moved on."
That is just the ending. Is that Jesus
and
Christ?
And they find Tilda Swinton who's not dead.
Yeah, the coven.
Like they lift her head back up, and she's like,
right.
And like drop her head again.
The ending is the coven just being like, "Well,
business as usual.
Let's clean this up." Mm-hmm. The ending in Suspiria, I guess spoilers for the original, is she fucking lights the place on fire and leaves, doesn't she?
Yeah, she kills the old
laughing, which is a fucking ending to a movie.
Like the witches are a reveal in Suspiria.
Yeah.
They're just like front and like it's so much about witch politics in this movie.
Yeah, and here's the thing is so many people when I was saying, "Oh, I'm seeing Suspiria," just like people who aren't big horror fans were like, "Oh, what is that?" It's not like the fact that they're witches is
super well known.
Is super well known. It's not fucking Psycho. They could have made that twist still work.
Yeah.
But apparently they didn't. They didn't want to make that movie. They wanted to make whatever this movie was.
Yeah, this garbage festival.
What the fuck?
It's so boring, you guys.
Yeah,
it's
guys,
so boring.
I'm so bummed because there was Halloween in this, and they were coming out around the same time, and I was like, this is exciting.
Yeah.
These are two older horror films that they're bringing back, and like oddly enough, and
with talented directors.
I used to be, or I guess I still am, cynical about remakes and sequels, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to put all that aside, because these are cool people making it. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna open my heart to these movies, and both of them have been terrible.
Yeah. This movie is very, very dull.
Yeah, I was ready to like this movie, and it just fucking punishes you.
It's we really can't say it enough. This movie
is so
boring.
Again, I slept well last night. I almost fell asleep in the theater.
Yeah,
we saw this at like 2 in the afternoon, 2:30.
Yeah.
And it was one of those going to sleep where like it's the kind where you're like traveling where your body's like, I better shut down because we're going to be here for a while apparently. Mm-hmm. Like it was like a survival thing.
Yeah, it was your body conserving energy.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, nothing here is like this is.
Yeah. I don't need to be present for this.
Yeah. It was a tough one. 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you walk in there?
I'm going to
with your 2.5 hour Suspiria movie.
Man, this I want to say I'm going to read about how this got made, but honestly, if we weren't making this podcast, you're right. I would have either walked out of it, or this is one of those movies that I would have left and not had another thought about. I would have been like, oh, that blood scene was cool, and that's pretty much it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I can't really recommend this movie to people.
No.
All I can say is wait for it to be on streaming, and fast forward to that cool blood scene. But if you really want to watch a movie that's a combination of pretty and atmospheric and batshit crazy, that's modern and original, go see Mandy.
Yeah.
Or I guess rent it, because that's the kind of movie this should have been.
Yeah, because Mandy is a long film. It's like 2 hours.
Yeah, and it looks very similar to the original Suspiria, the colors and stuff.
But it's engaging.
But it's engaging. And yes, it's atmospheric, and it starts a little slow, but it earns that by its ending. And that's not what this is. It's quite boring looking.
This is an unremarkable film.
It's very unremarkable, except for it being extremely long. That's the only remarkable thing about it.
Yeah. What kind of asshole makes a 2.5 hour Suspiria remake?
I don't know. It was the fucking audacity,
the balls,
the hubris of this motherfucker who thought that we wanted to see his 2.5 hour reimagining of Suspiria that doesn't go anywhere. What the fuck?
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah.
Just watch the original.
Yeah, just watch the original.
Watch the original and watch Mandy. Don't watch this crap.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all I have in me.
I have nothing.
This is more than like I was willing to give to this movie.
I have nothing left within me.
I can't stress, like, for the sake of the podcast, I'm trying to be animated, but like my biggest feeling of this is indifference,
right?
And I guess confusion.
Yeah.
Of like, why did you make this? I can't wait to stop thinking about this movie.
Yeah, it's the feeling of a hawk looking at a dead fish.
Yeah. It's not bad.
It feels nothing about it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just boring. It's not like the Halloween remake where it was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah,
here.
Halloween is bad.
Yeah,
this is boring and dull.
This is boring and dull and doesn't go anywhere. It's like a fucking story that an old person tells. Like,
it's dull. So you can't connect with anyone.
No, you can't.
It's just nothing happens.
Yeah. And again,
for long periods of time.
And it doesn't look good enough to justify that.
Yeah. Like the claustrophobia stuff I was talking about gets very old because the movie doesn't earn it. Yeah. And it's just, now this is just annoying. Like, now I'm just like, I want to see the whole fucking room, please.
Yeah, give me something.
Yeah. Like,
anything.
back up.
We skipped the part where they play with a cop's penis.
Oh, yeah. They hypnotize two cops.
That sounds like it would be way cooler than it ends up being.
Well, because Susie sees it happening and has no reaction to it.
Yeah, you're right. She just leaves and she's like, I guess that's the thing.
It's like her second day.
Yeah.
We don't know that she's DTF with the witches yet because that is a sudden revelation at the very end of the film. So she sees them having put these two policemen in a trance and like playing with one of their dicks. And just like laughing like lunatics
having
about
a great time.
And she just walks right back out to her friend Sarah and doesn't say a word about it.
She just acts like she didn't see it, which I guess
no reaction
should have been a clue that I guess she's in on it, but she didn't seem in on it at the time. She was still like curious and looking around.
She doesn't seem in on it until the scene where she randomly is communicating telepathically with Tilda Swinton.
Right. Oh my God! It just sort of starts happening.
Yeah. For a movie that is 2.5 hours long, it really doesn't tell certain important parts of the story.
Right, and like that's supposed to be a twist, and they don't treat it like a twist. No. It's just suddenly like, oh yeah, and by the way, she's the bad guy too. This person that you thought maybe was the main character, she's actually a bad guy.
It's just sort of vomited out as exposition.
Again, it's this constant grasping for a protagonist that I had throughout it, and that's I think what made my body shut down and want to go to bed.
Well, then
where I was like, I don't know what to think. It's because none of the characters are. What are you saying?
I was going to say it's Susie for a minute, and then it's the old man for a little bit, then it's Sarah for a little bit.
Yeah,
like we're following her,
and then none of them go anywhere because most of them appear to be just, oh yeah, we're witches. Like it's nobody is really fighting against it.
No, the three.
The witches just end up fucking fighting amongst each other, and then it's like, anyway, there's going to continue being witches.
Susie ends up at the ritual because she wants to, and then the old man and Sarah just kind of wander into the ritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our two of our three main characters just wander aimlessly through the film and stumble into the ending.
Going back to the idea of liking slow, like pretentious movies, you haven't seen Personal Shopper or Ghost Story.
No.
Both are. I mean, one of them is fucking what's his face, with a bed sheet over his
Casey
head.
Affleck.
Casey Affleck with a fucking bed sheet. So that's like so pretentious. Then you watch the movie, and I'll give them this: they remembered that they're a movie. So it's like, yeah, it's pretentious, but they're like, yeah, we're still gonna have like a structure and an arc, like character arcs, and like a story. We're still going to be a movie that's like trying to entertain people. This forgets to be that.
This is like a 2.5 hour long student film.
Yeah, it is. And like that's the thing. Even the weirdest movies have like main characters and arcs and 3-act structures, and are not. Yeah, this is a student film. This is a
Dave.
This is
again. It's a drama in 6 acts and an epilogue.
right.
It's not going to have a 3-act structure.
Right.
It tells you up top it's got a 6-act
This
structure.
is the equivalent of a college band, playing a set with their backs entirely turned to the audience. That's just like one droning song for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this isn't for anybody. This is for them, all with their backs turned to us, thinking they're fucking great.
I'm commenting on the 6 acts again. They're not broken up in any logical sense.
No, they're not.
They're just a random series of events, and they're like, okay, next chapter. Like, it doesn't...
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything.
Some very basic movie-making stuff doesn't happen in this for all the artistry and talent that this guy clearly has.
Or thinks he has.
Well, there's some good visuals.
Yeah, sure.
He's not
but
an untalented person.
Everybody,
but
other people can do good visuals too. The moment a movie is like chapter 1, I'm like, all right, this better be fucking good.
You better earn this.
Yeah, you better earn.
Because you were saying
your pretentious ass chapters.
El Royale, you were like, all right, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's that. It's the moment they start that shit. It's just like you better know what you are.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, fuck that. And that's the thing is there's other movies like Wes Anderson movies that do chapters or parts. Has Wes Anderson chapters? I just assumed he did because he has the fucking book shit. But where
sometimes,
whenever
not all the time.
Like it's exactly what you're saying is when a movie does have those parts, it's always these great moments where like a scene ends in this really intense way and then cut to black and it's like part 2. And it's like cool, like it's a nice little breather or like pacing, like that's the point of it. Yeah, it's the point is we're putting them in these neat little sections for a reason. There's no reason for that in this.
No, there's none.
It's not like, okay, it's this person's story, then it's this person's story,
Nope.
then it's this person's story. It's none of that. It felt like they just spaced out. They like looked on the timeline when they were editing it and being like, okay, well, every 30 minutes, let's just put in that new chapter. It doesn't matter what's going on at that point.
Yeah, and the titles are, I can't remember a single one.
Yeah. Were there titles?
Oh, yeah.
Were. They
Each
named
act
them
has
things.
a title. I can't
Jesus
remember a single fucking one.
What the fuck were they doing?
Because they had nothing to do with what was happening.
Yeah. What a weird fucking decision.
I think one of them was called like Darkness on All Floors, or All Floors Are Darkness, which was the act that has... Actually, no, it wasn't. That was the act that had the performance.
I'm surprised you even remember.
And then I remember the epilogue is something and sliced pear. Because the old man has a sliced pear on his plate.
Right.
When she's talking to him. That's fucking it.
Oh, my God. This is insufferable.
You son of a bitch.
This is an insufferable film. It's the more I talk about it, the more like the cool parts weren't worth it.
No, they weren't.
So I'm going to say don't rent it.
No.
Don't, even if it's
don't
free.
Don't spend any money
and
on this.
don't watch it.
I mean, you won't have to. It's an Amazon movie, so when it comes to streaming, it'll be free on Amazon Prime. I'm sure.
But don't watch it. It's
so
not,
you can skip to the head explosion
or
scene.
I'll tell you what. Start watching it, and then when you realize what you're watching, shut it off because it won't be worth powering through this movie.
When you realize that we were right, turn it off.
Yeah, and never think about it again.
I got nothing else to say, man.
No, I have nothing else to say. This is
so over this movie.
This is fucking exhausting.
So over this movie.
All right.
Should
we just stop abruptly?
I think. Well, we should say, what is it? TeePublic, where our shirts are.
Yeah, we got
TeePublic/user/Gamefully Unemployed.
Yeah, we got.
Because I found if you go on there and search Gamefully Unemployed, nothing comes up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
So you have to type in /user/Gamefully Unemployed.
Okay.
They make it a little bit of a chore.
All right. Well, just do that.
Oh, and check
it's on our Twitter.
Yeah, it's on our
Gamefully
Twitter.
On.
Yeah.
And Patreon, give us stuff.
Give us some monies on the
and
patrons.
Don't
see
Suspiria.
Suspiria. Do not.
See the original.
Yeah.
Don't see this.
Mm-mm.
Not this original. Yes. Jesus Christ.